What's up guys, it's your host here, Spartanic Arts DxD, back with another high school DxD related video. This will be What If Issei Was the Son of Great-red Part 2, and before I start I wanted to ask something. Would you guys want a series called What If Issei Snapped or Got Betrayed Rebooted? Because I do have another story that's completely finished that I could actually do the parts to. I like to call it What If Issei Snapped, but it's him getting betrayed. It's the same story or the same concept, if you get what I mean. Obviously, they're different stories from last time. I'm not talking about making it the same story, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's a brand new story, but that just get my point. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into What If Issei Was the Son of Great-red Part 2. Back in the dimensional gap, Issei is now 5 years old, and he is currently breathing fire out of his mouth. When he first saw his father and even his mother do it, he was amazed by how cool they looked, so he decided he wanted to do it as well. He is a dragon after all, and what is a dragon without the ability to breathe fire? However, it was not as easy as it looked. He tried to focus power in the pits of his stomach, and when he breathed out, he could only get a small burst of flames. He had many attempts and tried at this, but they all ended in failure. He made a cute pouting face whenever things didn't go his way, which Ophis found absolutely adorable. She went to him, and when he saw her, he came running towards her and asked her with puppy eyes, "Mom, what am I doing wrong? I tried and tried, but I can't seem to make it work, like you and Dad showed me," pouted Issei. She smiled and answered, "Do not worry, my little Issei. It takes time and practice to be able to do it, and I know you will eventually get the hang of it. In fact, you were able to breathe out a small amount of flames, which is incredible at your age." "Really?" Issei asked. Ophis patted his head. "Yes." At that moment, Ophis saw Great-red teleporting back in. "Why don't you continue playing while I talk with your father?" said Ophis. With a nod of his head and a wave towards his father, which he reciprocated, Issei went back to doing his thing while Ophis went to talk with Great-red. "All preparations have been made. The place we're going to inhabit is located in Japan called Ko. From what I can tell, that place is territory of the Gremory Devil's family. In my opinion, it is a perfect place to raise Issei because not only will he be able to remain hidden, but from what I could tell, not many beings have the guts to incur the wrath of the Gremory family, specifically the super devil Serzex Lucifer. I have acquired us a house, and just to be sure no one recognizes us, we will conceal our presence and aura so that there will be no supernatural beings can locate us," stated Great-red as he reverted to his human form. Ophis nodded as he saw her hand on her chin and asked, "Are you sure it's a good idea to reside in the devil territory? They have many conflicts with the other Christian factions, which could lead us to be getting directly involved. Wouldn't it have been better to live in a city where only humans reside?" She was worried that a being in a city with supernatural beings would cause Issei to be revealed that much sooner than she wanted her. His safety is her top priority at the moment. Great-red, sensing her distress. "At first, I also thought about living in the human region without any supernatural beings, but there are several issues pertaining that. Although we can conceal our presence completely from the outside forces, Issei is still too young to master that ability. Therefore, his draconic presence might leak from time to time, and in place devoid of supernatural entities will be sensed by other factions, which could lead to them sending people to investigate the unknown presence. On top of that, in today's era, dragons, especially powerful ones, are feared by all factions, so in the worst case, gods and other forces may be sent to try to deal with us forcefully. Granted, with our combined might, we could easily deal with any punny gods that come our way, but our son might be caught in the crossfire, which is something I really don't want to even think about. This is why I chose the location that is controlled by the devils. Since they control the territory, other factions would not be able to intervene even if they were able to sense us. We would only have to deal with evading devil sentries, which by placing barriers around our palace would do. We will use the devil's influence over this place to hide ourselves in the plain sight, until our little Issei is strong enough to protect himself." Ophis was very impressed by Great-red. She never pegged him as an intellectual type of dragon due to his constant laid-back attitude, and so she let out a small laugh. "What's so funny?" Great-red asked, a bit ticked that she was laughing at him. "I was never dumb to begin with. You and I are both entities that have been born way before any gods roam the world and therefore have intelligence to back it up. I was just never serious about anything in my time in the dimensional gap. I simply wanted to roam free, but now," he paused and looked at Issei flying about, trying to shoot out his fire. "I have a reason to take things seriously," he said in a firm and decisive tone. "You are right," she replied, as soon as she stared at Issei too. Great-red, wanting to get back on track, continued, "So, are you okay with moving to Ko, or would you like to keep searching?" To tell the truth, Ophis really did not want to move anywhere. She wanted to keep Issei in the dimensional gap where she knew he would be safe from any harm, but she also knew it would be a dimensional to his unbringing. Anyway, sooner or later, Issei will get curious enough to go visit the human world and may get himself into trouble without them knowing, which is something she wants to avoid desperately. After a careful amount of consideration, she yielded and told Red, "I'm alright with it. No matter where we go, there will always be risks that come along with it. All we can do is limit them as much as we can," she sighed as she looked at Issei. Issei, having heard his mom calling for him, he flew over to her. "Yes, Mom," he said with a big smile on his face and his tail swinging like a puppy. His hair was a bit messy, his wings a bit shattered due to all the practice he's been doing, but Ophis did not mind at all. It just makes him look that much cuter. She bent down to be able to look at him at the eye level, and told him in a sweet tone, "We are going to be moving today to the human world. The reason being, it has come to our attention that it would do you some good to socialize and play around with kids your age, instead of being secluded here in the dimensional gap. You will get to meet new people, make friends, experience things we cannot teach you, and much more. Are you ready to leave?" explained Ophis. She secretly hoped that Issei would not want to leave the dimensional gap and would be afraid to go to an unknown place, which is why she incredibly surprised Issei when he shouted, "Really? Yahoo! Let's go!" Issei was jumping up and down at how excited he is. Unknown to both Ophis and Great-red, Issei had secretly been planning to visit the human world for some time. From time to time, ripples in the dimensional gap would appear. Through them, Issei caught a glimpse of the outside and would ranging from seeing kids play in the park to even seeing devils and angels go about their business. Saying that this didn't captivate his attention would be a lie. Ophis' earlier concern was actually spot on. He became curious about the outside world and all wonders it may contain, and therefore was planning to somehow sneak away. Luckily, he doesn't have to do that now, since his mom just told him they would be living there, which got him very excited. Ophis nodded and brought Issei to Great-red as he prepared the teleportation magic circle to take them to their new home. Ophis looks around and breathes a heavy sigh. "What's wrong?" asked Great-red. "I can't believe I am voluntarily leaving the dimensional gap so soon after I came back, much less with you of all things. The silence I crave so heavily is being given up so easily yet unexpectedly. I don't feel bad about it," she said, looking at Issei. Great-red simply replied, "Well, I cannot believe I will be raising a family together with you, but it seems fate had a different goal in mind for us." He looked at Issei. "All the problems and issues that will eventually arise is something my previous self would never, in a million years, have taken. Yet, honestly, I can say safely that I wouldn't have had it any other way." With a big grin on his face, Ophis lightly blushed at what he said, but quickly suppressed it, thinking, was I just flustered by what he said? No. There's no way this idiot Red could do that to me. "The magic circle is ready. Are you ready?" asked Great-red, unaware of the inner turmoil Ophis just had. She quickly shook herself back into reality and just nodded her head, signaling that she was ready. The three of them got teleported to the front of their new home. Surprisingly, the house wasn't anything grandiose. It was a normal two-story terrace house with a light blue exterior, a balcony on the second floor, and a brown roof. The first floor includes a living room, kitchen, while the second floor has 3 bedrooms with 3 bathrooms. Considering Great-red's personality, Ophis thought he would get them an extravagant house, but since Great-red did not want to attract attention to them, both of the human and supernatural side, he got them a normal house. "This is the place we will be living in for a long time. Do you like it, Issei?" Before he could answer his father, he bolted inside the house and excitement was through the roof. "Well, that answers that." Both dragons giggled at his own comment. As they were going in, Ophis noticed a few barriers surrounding the house, understanding that they were used to keep the unwanted people away and to keep them hidden as well for Issei's protection. Shouldn't we need it, being the Ouroboros' dragon god, she could feel the devil's presence in the town as well as the fallen angels. Although too weak to pose a threat to them, she would rather avoid any unnecessary conflicts that may arise from coming into contact with them. She notices in the front of her door a sign that says Hyodo, and looks puzzled at Great-red, who understood what she was getting at, and told her, "I've given us a family name, Hyodo. While we reside here, in order to keep our appearances to the outside world, the Hyodo family resides here." Ophis acknowledged with a nod, and she understood what he said. Now their new lives will begin today, and not even she knows what the future may bring. Issei at the moment, was extremely excited. Why shouldn't he be? This place he caught a glimpse of in the dimensional gap and has, since then, piqued his curiosity. He could not wait to go outside and explore the wonders of the world. Unlike most kids his age who are very timid and shy, he is very outgoing and willing to try new things. He wanted to go visit the park, and he saw back then and hopefully play with other kids. His parents did explain to him that he needed to be very careful due to his origins and the fact that he had to keep his race a secret, as humans will be absolutely terrified of him should they find out he was a dragon. He had to be cautious that he doesn't accidentally sprout his wings or breathes fire out of his mouth. He promised his parents that he would be very careful and make sure to keep him out of trouble, while they would not let him play outside. After getting acclimated to the new house, Issei immediately bolted towards the nearest park, and luckily for him was not very far. Ophis was worried about his safety, wanted to immediately follow him, but was quickly stopped by Great-red, who waved his head to the side, telling her that they should allow Issei to live his own life and by his own terms without their intervention. Ophis argued back, saying that he is too young to take care of himself, but was reminded by Great-red when he reminded her that he was a dragon, and many dragon parents allow their young the freedom to do as they want, to give them a sense of individuality and sometimes responsibility. He goes to tell her that she worries too much and that should not anything happen. They quickly intervene to help him as much as he could sense anywhere he goes. After a constant back and forth bickering, Ophis reluctantly agreed to let Issei do what he wants for a moment, but he made sure to tell Great-red if anything were to happen to little Issei, he would understand the meaning of the term hell on earth. A drop of sweat could be seen on Great-red when she said that, when he nodded nevertheless, thinking, I hope you'll be okay, Issei, or I might actually end up dying today. Issei's POV. I quickly ran out of the house in search of the playground, also at the park. I've seen only glimpses of back in the gap. I remember seeing that place surrounded with many different kids in my age playing amongst themselves and having fun. I hope they will let me play with them soon. Hopefully, I'll be able to make friends. After a while, he finally made his way to the park, and the place was exactly as amazing as he saw it back in the dimensional gap. No, it was even better because he was able to see it with his very own eyes. In person, he saw kids playing tag together, kids swinging on swings, playing ball, and many other things. It made him really impatient at the thought of him being able to try new things he couldn't even dream of back in the gap. He was grateful to his parents for trying their best to raise him and protect by themselves. He loves them both very much and would do anything for them, but secretly he longed to be able to see the outside world, and as previously mentioned, was about to sneak away from the gap into the human world. However, that was in the past, and now his parents allowed him to play outside, which he will now take full advantage of. He will first approach the group of kids playing tag, and when he got close, they all stopped and looked at him. Hello, my name is Issei. He greeted them with a wave of his hand, expecting them to interact with one another. Unfortunately, the response he got was something rather unexpected. Instead of replying, all of the kids slowly backed away from him, not even bothering to answer him or even talk to him. Issei thought it odd, but decided not to pursue and instead trying to go and play with a different group. Regrettably, we got the same occurred outcome with every other group. No one wanted to do anything with them. Issei did not understand what was going on. Why was everyone avoiding me? Did I do something to offend them? He pondered on a bit and believed that maybe all of them were just nervous at a new kid suddenly appearing out of nowhere. They were probably a bit spooked by his appearance, which would make sense as kids are taught to not trust strangers. So instead of becoming depressed, he left home intending on trying again the next day, where he might be able to have better luck. He is a brave and cherry person for a 5-year-old child. Sadly, reality is cruel and a fickle thing. For the following week, Issei attempted to interact with other children, but time and time again, his sorrow, they either tried to continue to avoid him or straight up just ignored him. To make matters worse, sometimes even parents took their kids away from Issei. As this continued, Issei's heart broke slowly. He could not understand why everyone was treating him like the plague, a nuisance. A sniff could be heard from Issei as he wandered back to the trade-off, falling from his face. Why won't anyone play with me? What did I do? Issei asked himself as he started crying, looking at the ball he's currently holding. He did not understand why everyone was so afraid of him, as if he were a monster. Furthermore, if that weren't bad enough, more simply ignored his presence completely as if they were nothing to do with him. Even though Issei's a dragon god, he is still only a child, and to be alienated and treated horribly by everyone around him only hurt his feelings deeply. Unknown to him, the reason everyone kept fearing and avoiding him is due to a simple fact. It was something that every dragon possesses in his aura. Every dragon, whether high or low class, has something that differentiates them from dragons and other species in general, that being manifestation of their aura. It is basically the nucleus of every living dragon for them to use their powers, and with age and experience, their aura would manage to gain certain properties that would help them grow at an alarming pace, even amongst their own kind. For instance, the two heavenly dragons, Dragon Albion, when Drag awoke his aura, the trait he received was domination. That's when he gained his first ability related to his aura of domination, which were his flames capable of annihilating even gods, reducing them to ash. The same for Albion, who gained the trait of supremacy, which gave birth to his venom ability that the same lethal potential has as dragon's flames. Even Ophis and Great-red have auras symbolizing their concept, Ophis aura being infinite, symbolizing the infinity of nothingness, while Great-red's aura represents the illusion of dreams. Issei is no different, being the son of not the two dragon gods, are essentially beings both of auras meshing together. His aura awoke the moment he was born, even though his parents was able to completely conceal even though his parents were be able to completely conceal their parents in auras from others. Issei does not, due to him being too young to know how to do so. Therefore, to supernatural beings, he would be seen as a powerful individual, but to humans, his aura would give a frightening feeling, and they could only view him as a monster, much to his dismay. As he continued walking, he passed by a staircase that led him to a shrine above. For reasons unknown, Issei climbed the stairs and headed to the shrine. Once he reached the entrance, he spotted someone cleaning the entryway, just a few meters ahead of him. It would be an encounter that would change his life entirely. It was a young girl around his age or possibly 1 year older than him. When she saw her, he was memorized by her appearance. She had raven black hair tied in a bun and went down till her shoulders. Was dressed in a traditional Miko outfit, but drew his attention were her beautiful violet eyes. Issei was so enthralled that he did not realize that he was slowly making his way towards until he accidentally stepped on a branch that snapped as he stepped on it. His instinct quickly kicked in as he heard a nearby tree, but not before the girl managed to catch a glimpse of him doing the act. "Hello, who is it?" she asked, approaching him towards the general vicinity. Inside, Issei was panicking. Should he reveal and introduce himself? She already knows he is there. He wanted to, but in second, he was about to step out from behind the tree. He froze as flashbacks of all the previous encounters he had with other children assaulted him in his mind, and now he was scared that she would be afraid of him too, and most likely run away. For a moment, he did not know what to do, but with a quick glance, he saw that she would find him either way. Therefore, with stiff movements, he slowly came out from his hiding place as he made eye contact with the girl. Up close, she looked even prettier than she did when looking from afar. They stared at each other for a moment, and then Issei recognized that the girl was a bit startled by him. He panicked, thinking it was going to be the same situation all over again. He looked at the ball in his hand. He looked at the ball in his hands and decided to take one final chance. Should he fail, he will give up and seclude himself in his home with his parents. If he was going to continue his experience this misery, then he would rather not live in such a world. In a panicked voice, he asked, showing her his ball. Hello. I'm Issei. Would you like to play with me?" He staggered his speech, looking at the ground beneath him, out of nervousness, which is reasonable considering what he went through. On the other hand, the girl was very surprised by his demeanor. She did feel a bit afraid from his aura, but she did see him stagger. She found him to be very cute and giggled a bit. "Hello, I'm Akano Hijima. It's nice to meet you, and I would love to play with you," she answered with a sweet smile. Issei was extremely shocked at her answer. He honestly expected her to stay away from him like everybody else, but instead she agreed to play with him, and even looking at him straight in the eye. It felt incredible weight had been lifted off his shoulders as he looked at her in the eye with a big smile on his face. Hi, thank you so much. Oof, you're so funny. Let's play since you brought the ball," she said. They both started playing in the entryway shrine. Considering how big it was, Issei was currently extremely content that he had finally had someone to play with him, and he hoped that she would become his first friend in the world. As they were playing, suddenly a strong presence made itself known right behind Issei. His instinct screamed that he was in danger. He looked back. Behind him was a middle-aged, gruff-looking man with black hair, matching a beard and muscular body. What grabbed his attention were the 10 black wings that were located on his back. "Akano, get away from him. Who are you, boy?" demanded Barkil, father of Akano. He had recently come home from a mission only to find his daughter playing with a boy around her age. At first, he was happy for her, since there were very few instances, if any at all, that she was able to step outside in the safety of her home and play with other kids her age like she should. Both his wife and him were very concerned for her upbringing. Still, Barkil had many enemies, and the last thing that he wanted was for them to know about his family's existence and their safety in Pearl. Even Shirley's family would no doubt want to get rid of Akeno for being part fallen angel, therefore they had no choice but to keep her safe in the shrine as much as possible. So, to see her play without a care in the world brought a smile to his face. Regrettably, that did not last very long. When he looked at the boy, he felt a tremendous power radiating from him. It wasn't stronger than him, but coming from what he sees to be a 5-year-old raised alarm bells in his head. He quickly switched to his protective father mode as he became extremely worried for Akeno's safety. Being a fallen angel cadre, in his long line of work, he has seen and faced many different beings that could exist, yokai demons that could shapeshift forms to attract children. Even worse still, this could potentially be a ploy from one of his many enemies that managed to discover the location of his family. Although a small part of his mind disagreed with those thoughts, first, due to the fact that his aura felt raw and primal, more powerful than any young yokai could ever hope to achieve, and second, if his enemies really did find his family, they would have sent an entire platoon to deal with him, and not some elaborate scheme like this. Either way, it did not change what he had to do. He would eliminate any threat to his family no matter who or what they were. Issei looked up at Barkyul, his body trembling from the hostility towards him. My name is Issei, and I don't mean to cause any harm. I was just playing with Akeno, answered Issei to Barkyul, trying to quell his anger towards him. He could sense that he was way stronger than him and he could get rid of him quite easily if the being in front of him wanted to. Akeno, seeing this, quickly came to his defense. Tosan, Issei and I were simply playing with one another. He isn't trying to hurt me. He's a sweet boy and a new friend of mine, said Akeno, firmly looking at Issei when she said her last statement with a smile. Issei felt happiness overwhelm him, not only because she came to his defense, but mostly because she called him her friend, something he desperately wanted to achieve this past week. Thank you, he quietly murmured to himself as blushing a bit, not knowing that Akeno saw and heard him making her blush a bit, but she saw his expression. He's so cute, she thought to herself. Seeing this interaction caused Barkyul's wrath to slowly evaporate. Although his guard wasn't down, he could clearly see that they have overreacted on the poor boy. In addition, seeing his daughter blush at the young boy made him giggle a little, as he believed that Akeno may have discovered her first crush. Before he could apologize to Issei for his behavior, he sensed an overwhelming powerful presence phasing into existence right in front of him. Black aura in the shape of snakes suddenly began materializing from emerged an angry Ophis who witnessed the events transpire. Chapter 4. Unknown to Issei, she had recently been secretly following him during the past week to make sure he was safe, and when she saw this, absolutely infuriated her. She witnessed so many kids and even adults ostracize Issei for being different. No one wanted him nearby, and this caused Issei to become depressed. She could even see it in his expression, even though he tried so hard to hide it from her and Great-red. However, both understood that something happened, so Ophis immediately decided to trail him the following days with Great-red, warning her not to get too involved too much, otherwise it wouldn't be good for his growth, and also to prevent from other forces from discovering their presence in the city. What right did any of these pathetic humans have to treat her little Issei this way? They should be grateful that their children would have the privilege of playing with her son, and yet they dare to treat him this way? It took every ounce of willpower she had not to erase them from existence, and then and there. Even worse was the sad expression that Issei made after every failed encounter, which had her torn in her heart. Something she always believed that she never had. Ascender, when she saw him. She wanted to run and embrace him in a warm and loving hug, telling him that everything would be alright, but knowing that Issei was trying his hardest not to worry them and kept on trying again and again, kept her from acting. She was extremely proud of his unyielding resolve to succeed. That is a quality that very few possess, especially at only 5 years old. Yet, now this pathetic fallen angel was attempting to kill her son. The very thought of her son dying sent a shiver down her spine. At the same time, an all-consuming anger erupted from her being, which was directed at Barkyul. Luckily, throughout the years, she managed to learn how to control her powers, so it was only aimed at the people she wants to target, rather than having everyone able to sense her infinite aura. In the past, it didn't matter to her whether people detected her presence or not, as she was the infinite, and no one, save for Great-red and one another, could even put a dent on her. But now she had her son to worry about, and the last thing she wanted was to attract attention towards themselves and risk being caught in the crossfire. Barkyul, on the other hand, was on full-on alert at the moment. He instantly knew who was the being in front of him, and his face carried an expression of fear, knowing that in front of him there was the infinite dragon god Ophis. He was currently pondering what she'd do. Should he call for reinforcements? No. Even the entire fallen angel faction combined would not be able to put a dent on her. She was the most powerful being in the world for a reason. It was only led to his faction's extinction, something that needed to be avoided at all costs. After evaluating his options, he could not think of any way to deal with the situation. Nevertheless, behind him was his family, and he would not give up his life. He would give up his life to at least give them a chance to run away. Determined to keep Ophis away from them, he was about to engage with her, and suddenly a small figure stood between them. With his 4 dramatic wings spread out as well as his arms spread out, Issei placed himself between his mother and Akino's dad in order to hopefully spare them from her wrath. He knew of his mother's overprotectiveness of him, and she was grateful that she loved him so. However, if he didn't do something, she would send Akino's dad into oblivion, which would make Akino very sad. He has finally found somebody who did not shun him as if he were a monster, and more particularly had called him a friend, something that he desperately wanted arriving since this town. "Mom, please wait," he said, looking straight at his mother. Both parties were surprised by his actions. Barkil was surprised that the boy was willing to protect him despite the fact that he was ready to kill him moments ago. But what shocked him the most was the words that came out of Issei's mouth. Did he just say mom? As far as we know, the Ouroboros dragon has never had a child. Is he perhaps a new member of the group that Azazel has been talking about? What is going on here? Thought Barkil to himself as he tried to evaluate the situation further. According to Azazel, Ophis has never been interested in anything other than to attain silence, so the thought of her having a son, taking care of a family, was very impractical. However, Azazel also mentioned that Ophis had completely disagreed off the face of the world around 5 years ago, which is about the age of a young boy in front of him. No one knew what happened to it, yet everyone was secretly happy that they didn't need to deal with it. They all led it to accept a few leaders such as Azazel and Azazel. Ophis did not understand why her son stood between her and the bird. If she was rational, she would have taken time to think about it. But currently, she was in the state of rage. This feeble fallen angel dared to raise his hand against her own son. That was inexcusable. Issei, please get out of the way. That little vermin dared to raise a hand against you. My own son, I will not tolerate it. I will erase him from existence, Ophis said, looking at Barkil, who flinched at her infuriated gaze. However, Issei would not budge. No, Mom. Akino's father did nothing wrong. He was only trying to protect his daughter from harm, just as you would for me. So please don't do this. If you do, I will hate you, Issei retorted. It was extremely difficult to utter that last part because he sincerely loves his mother and he did not want her to kill his first father, as it would make her sad. Ophis, on the other hand, was extremely devastated by the last remark. If there was anything she truly feared in the world, for her little Issei to start repenting her. She did not want that at all. Her enraged state was replaced with a bitter state as her aura slowly dissipated. Everyone became silent when the two voices were heard. What's going on here? What's going on here? The first voice came from the beautiful woman who resembled an older version of Akino. She had long raven hair tied to her ponytail and was garbed in a Miko outfit. She was Akino's mother and a wife of Barkil. She had sensed the tension outside her house and came to make sure that everything was all right. She came out of Barkil with his wings spread out and his holy lightning coming out from his face, facing off of a gorgeous woman who by definition would be the epitome of beauty. In between them was a child who seems to be trying to stop their engagement, and Akino, who is worriedly looking at them from the side. She did not understand what was going on, would have to ask her husband to clarify the situation for her. The second entity that came out was none other than Great-red, having sensed Ophis' power from his home. He knew that something had gone horribly wrong and immediately teleported to Ophis, which tried to mitigate the situation before she does anything crazy, as well as to check on Issei if he was alright. He arrives to see the same situation as Shuri, although in his mind, he was impressed by his son to have managed to stand up to his mother. I'm proud of you, son. He thought that with a small grin on his face. It seems that Issei managed to solve the issue without any bloodshed for now. Still, he now needed to understand the situation and would talk to Ophis to see what just happened. Mom, Dad, heard simultaneously from Akino as Issei respectively. As both tracked their respectively family apart, they started questioning them on the events that previously transpired. Shuri and Barkil. After Barkil explained to his wife what happened, he got slapped in the face, which surprised him greatly. Even worse was the look of anger that his wife directed at him. Of course she would react like that. You threatened to hurt her child. As a mother, I completely understand her feelings on the matter. I would have reacted the same way had our daughter been in the same situation, so this incident is indeed your fault. As a parent yourself, what possessed you to attempt to strike at another's child? Said Shuri as she hammered Barkil with words. Barkil in turn answered, But I was only trying to protect our daughter from danger. Despite being a child, his aura and power are almost equivalent to my own, and I thought that he had malicious intentions towards Akano. Shuri looked at him with doubt displayed on her face. Are you referring to that sweet child who stood in between you and his mother to protect you from her wrath? Furthermore, suppose you were right and he turns out to be been evil. Did you not think of the consequences should you have engaged in battle with him? Akano would have been caught in the crossfire of your fight. Aren't you supposed to be a leader of your faction? Please think before you act. Barkil was shocked at her answer because he knew she was right. Had he been more rational and calmer, he could have handled the situation a lot better. Yet he let his emotions get better of him and acted rashly. His mood took a big dive as he looked down on the floor. Shuri, seeing that, took his hand and smiled at him, saying, "Let us offer our sincere apology for the incident and hope it was good enough." Barkil nodded as they made their way towards the Dragon Gods, back to Great-red and Ophis. While Akano's parents had their little meeting, Great-red and Ophis were having their discussion of their own. What were you thinking, letting your power out like that? Have you forgotten that we are trying to lay low to avoid detection by other factions? Yelled Great-red at Ophis. Arguing with her was the last thing he wanted at the moment, but if he needs to do it in order to get his point across, then so be it. They both agreed that they would keep a low profile while living in the human world in order to ensure safety of their son. Yet, here she is, flaunting her power. They were truly lucky that the time it was only felt like by him and Akano's family, otherwise every other faction would come here to investigate. That is a hassle that he does not want to deal with at the present moment. Orph explained the situation to him, believing that her actions were justifiable. Great-red sighed after she finished to continue talking yet in a more relaxed manner. I understand what was going on now. However, you did not need to flaunt your power like that. We are lucky that your aura was too abrupt to be felt by any faction save for me. Did you think of the consequences that could have arisen from your actions? We are trying to remain hidden to ensure not only Issei's safety, but able to raise him without any sort of unwanted intervention. Also, you didn't promise that you would not intervene in Issei's affairs. This is his life, Ophis interrupted Great-red, exclaiming. You wouldn't understand how I felt, idiot Red. I followed for the past week and saw how everyone treated our son, leaving him in a depressed state every time he came back home. Don't you dare start talking to me when you weren't there. Before she could finish the sentence, she sensed Great-red's aura spike as her expression turned into one fury detected her, no less. Wouldn't understand. I understand more than you know, Ophis. Have you forgotten what I represent? I'm the dragon of dreams, and every day I got to see Issei's dream that was filled with nothing but pain and sadness from his encounters. It utterly devastated my heart knowing what Issei was going through. And like you, I wanted nothing more than to exterminate those vile humans for treating my son that way, so don't you dare for a moment think I don't understand. This is probably the first time Ophis was ever really afraid of Great-red. Never had she seen him this serious and furious at the same time. Yet the reason I do not intervene is because not only was Issei determined to keep trying, but he also tried his best not to make us worry about him. If I were to intervene, not only would this be an insult to his resolve, but it would make Issei feel like a failure for making us worried. This is an obstacle that he must face. Young he may be, but he is a dragon, and dragons do not back down from a challenge. Also, from what you told me, he seems to have been his first friend until you showed up and threatened to kill her father. It's no wonder he told you that last remark. Great-red noticed that Barkil and Shuri were slowly making their way towards them and figured this was a good time and tried to rectify the situation. Alright, it seems the parents of Issei's friend are coming over. Let's see if we can resolve the situation. If worst comes to worst, I'll use my powers to wipe their memory of their encounter with us. Secretly, Great-red was hoping not to utilize this last resort, as it would also mean that Issei would lose his first friend, which would cause him to be hated, and he didn't really want that. Couples were now at speaking distance to Shuri to start to stop the conversation. Hello, my name is Shuri Hakakawa. I am the mother of Akano and wife to Barkil. I heard the commotion that has occurred here, and I would like to offer you our sincere apologies for now and how this was handled. My husband should not have raised his hand against your child. As a mother, I understand that Ophis' reaction was reasonable, and the child's safety is a mother's #1 priority. I know my husband only did this out of concern of the safety of our daughter, but I believe he could have handled it differently. So I would like to make amends for our offer due to our apology on behalf. Shuri bowed to show her sincerity and looked at Barkil to do the same when he did. As my wife mentioned, I am truly sorry for the way I behaved for threatening your son. I pray that you could forgive me, Barkil said as a slight bow, hoping that this would resolve the situation since he knew the conflict would only lead to their demise against Ophis. Please raise your heads. Both of them lifted their heads, Great-red continued. I heard from Ophis the details of the incidents, and while I'm troubled by the fact that my son was nearly hurt, I do believe that things could have been resolved more smoothly if both of them had been calm and rational, so I let things slide. In addition, I can tell that you were both genuinely sorry for the events that transpired, so we will accept your apologies. Both of them became relieved knowing their apology was accepted, while Ophis was giving a stern look as he basically indirectly called her stupid, which he ignored to her attire. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, but I forgot to ask your name, Shuri asked. Before answering, Great-red took a moment to think about it. Should he reveal his identity to them? Should he tell them the truth and bend it a bit? After a careful consideration, he decided he would give them the benefit of the doubt and give them the truth. They already met Ophis, so revealing his identity won't really matter. If things go wrong, as he stated earlier, he would use his powers to modify their memories, although he would still warn them to keep everything a secret. If not, then he would have to alternative to do what must be done to keep Issei safe. I will tell you my name, but you must promise that you will only keep it a secret. It's a secret between us, but everything else happened during the earlier incident from anyone. He told them, giving them a serious glare, showing he means business. Both of them were a bit confused with the statement. Nevertheless, as the expression of the goodwill and the fact that he owed them an apology, they would concede this to him. Barkil, although was a bit distraught, thought that he would need to lie to Azazel, and his friends also agreed. He was bewildered why the dragon in front of him wanted to keep his identity a secret, since nothing was more shocking than meeting Ophis and learning she has a kid. Still, they looked at each other and nodded. We promise that we will keep your identities a secret for our respective families and superiors unless you give us permission. Is that alright? Barkil answered for both of them. Great-red nodded and showing his approval. Indeed it is. Very well. Then allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the Apocalypse Dragon, the true God Emperor Dragon, but you can call me Great-red. He answered with his 4 wings sprouting from his back. He could simply have told his name, but he is proud of his title, as any other dragon would be. On the other hand, to say Shuri and Barkil were both shocked would be an understatement. They were blown away by the revelation. Even Shuri knew of the Great-red through Barkil. Barkil's mind was going a million miles per hour to understand the situation. Never in his wildest dream did he ever think he would meet with the strongest existence face to face. It was unthinkable due to 2 reasons. 1, according to Azazel, Great-red is a dragon that swims freely across the dimensional gap and never really interacts with any other worlds, which is why he isn't deemed as a threat to any factions. 2, and this is probably the biggest reason, is that Great-red should be Orpheus's mortal enemy as stated by Azazel, and yet he is standing side by side with her, casually engaged in conversation and not at each other's throats. In fact, if he didn't know better, they'd almost be acting like a couple. It was that when he struck with a sudden realization. When he first appeared in the commotion, he could swear he heard the boys shout, "Dad!" And if that were true, then, oh no, what have I done? Barkil thought to himself. If he wasn't scared before, he certainly is now. In fact, he's absolutely terrified now. If wrath of both dragon gods, then there really is no hope for him. Just one of them could destroy him the world many times over, but both combined, he shuddered to even think about it. He prayed to the deceased god, something he hasn't done in centuries, for his family to be safe and harms could not turn sour. Great-red, seeing Barkil's expression, could guess what he was thinking. From your expression, I can tell that you're worried about your earlier transgression against my son. I would be lying if I said I wasn't angry at your actions against him, and if I were any other time, I would certainly have eliminated you without a second thought. Barkil shivered at this response. But given our current circumstances, and the fact that you were only trying to protect your child, something I recently understand, I let it go. Besides, I've already accepted your apology, and for Issei's sake, I would rather not cause any more trouble with his first friend. Barkil let out a big sigh of relief and once again bowed to Great-red. Thank you very much for your kindness and forgiveness, he said. With a small wave of his hand, Great-red replied, "Don't mind it." And that's the end of chapter 4. That's as far I'm going to go. If you guys can't tell, I'm kind of sick. I have college and tons of athletics to do, but my next series will be What If Issei Was Betrayed and Snapped Part 1. That will be coming out hopefully Thursday or Friday. I don't know. Might not even. I'm kind of like sick right now. As you can tell, I have a cold, and I got so much college work to do this week. And obviously I run track. That's kind of what I do at college. So I also have athletics, so I got to focus on that as well. But hopefully when December hits, I'll just grind out YouTube. You already know. And thank you for all the support. I'm so glad we hit 16,000 subscribers. Road to 20K. Your boy is getting big, and I really do thank you for all the support. So without further ado, Spartanic out.